Welcome and thanks everyone for coming in the audience and those who watch our Facebook Live. I'd like to start this meeting off with a prayer.
Let us pray. Father God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come and to represent the people. But most of all, dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to tell people that we love you and we seek your guidance in everything we say and do, dear Lord. We ask you now that you just bless the ones that are here. So many of us, dear Lord, have things going on in our lives and we don't turn it over to you. This council, the community, dear Lord, we just ask you that you would just draw each of us closer to you and use us to do your will in everything we say and do. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Freedom of announcement according with the state of South Carolina Code of Law 1976 as amended. The Man Star Mullins Enterprise has been notified of date, time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Approval of minutes, May 28th, 2026.
So moved.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it. May 20th, 2026, budget workshop number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it. May 28th, 2026, budget workshop number 3.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it. Resolution. Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, third reading of ordinance 2026-04 is still on hold. Mr. Rogers told me the planning commission is meeting, I believe he said this Thursday, to finish their finalized matters on that. So we'll have third reading at our next council meeting. Item B, this actually came up at the last meeting. If I could ask for a motion and a vote to strike this from the agenda. We don't need this item anymore.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it.
All right, that takes us to item C, second reading of ordinance 2026-10, fiscal year budget 2026-2027. It's my understanding you all have a full copy of that ordinance in front of you. If you need to take action on second reading, please.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed likewise, ayes have it.
Item D, first reading of ordinance 2026-11, just to remind you and those in attendance. First reading only requires reading of the title only. No action is to be taken that is necessary. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents relating to the provision of county facilities, consenting to and approving the issuance of not exceeding 6.6 million Marion County Public Facilities Corporation installment purchase, refunding, and capital improvements revenues bonds series 2026 and one or more series by Marion County Public Facilities Corporation to provide for funding to refinance the cost of acquisition, construction, renovation, and expansion of county facilities, and to reimburse the county for certain prior capital expenditures, consenting to and approving the execution of a base lease agreement and facilities purchase and occupancy agreement relating thereto by and between Marion County, South Carolina, and Marion County Public Facilities Corporation, consenting to the form of a bond agreement to be entered into by Marion County Public Facilities Corporation and the purchaser of the bonds, and together therewith assignment to said purchaser of certain rights to payments and other rights of Marion County Public Facilities Corporation under the facilities purchase and occupancy agreement, and making provisions for all other matters relating thereto. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Committee number 1 report has nothing at this time.
Committee number 2 has nothing at this time.
Legal update.
I don't have anything in this section today, but I do have a contractual matter that's covered by attorney-client privilege. I need to add to executive session, please.
Okay. Ms. Brenda Jackson, Kennedy Cobb.
Good morning.
Morning.
If can't hear me, just let you know, I'll try to speak loudly, in case this doesn't work. First of all, let me thank council for the opportunity to serve as your auditor again. It's been a pleasure to serve. I'll remind you once again, you've heard this several years, but the way that the audit's set up, there's those major changes this year. You have your management's discussion and analysis, which is what it says is the county's summary of everything that's in here. You have your basic financial statements, which is a very summarized of everything that's in the back of the statements. You have some required supplemental information and additional information. So at the back, you've got all your details. At the bottom, you go to the front, you've got some very summarized information. I'll keep my presentation more on the condensed level, except for the general fund. We'll hit some details on that. But please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me. We'll go into this much detail and answer them. I'd like to start on page 8 with your independent auditor's report. Page 5 through 8. It does say this, second, paragraph there, it says disclaimer of opinions and unmodified opinions. There are no disclaimer of opinions this year. The library is included this year. So you do have an unmodified opinion. So you have the clean opinion like you have had prior to the last couple of years. So the library is included, so we do not have that exception this year for not having the library, your component unit included. So basically what we're saying is your financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And for the year ended June 30, 2025. So we're glad to have that exception cleared up. And that's the library's got next to us in time and it's not. Any questions on that? If not, we'll get into some of the numbers on page 7. Your first line I have here is your just let me say this first. The cash, this statement is the very most condensed of all. This includes everything for the field. All your grants, all of the offline.
I was on page 5.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, Supreme.
Okay, 17.
Only unit here in the library,
It's
only unit.
the library. Page 17. This is the statement of net position. It is the very condensed statement. It includes all activities of the county. This is what you would probably most commonly hear on a balance sheet. First line item there is cash. Was at 3.2 million. This is up from the prior year, which was at 1.5 million. But that is a little misleading. The prior year was down because of some timing issues because of money held by the state. The prior year was years before that was around the 3 million. So even though the money was up, doesn't mean that you had a good year. There was a receivables. All your cash plays into effect when you have the timing of when you get your money from the state, when you file claims for reimbursement, when those come in. So at 6/30/24, you had a lot of money that the state was holding that you hadn't received yet. And you received more of that money at 6/30/25.
The reason why the state was holding those funds.
Yes, some delay in the holiday. Prior year. Was part of it, and part of it was just there were some big grants that were, hadn't received reimbursement for, claims get filed late. Some of the FAA money where it's notorious for not paying quickly, and you have a lot of those, big grants for maximum money, at 30/24, you can get, you can see, but at 6/30, this period, you didn't have any notice of that property. Okay, next, restricted cash, which is about 5 or 6 lines down, was at 13.6 million. Now, the operating cash and the restricted cash. Now, the operating cash has, in the top, was at 3.2 million. That includes $990,000 in the tax account, which some of that will go to the county, some of that will go to, other taxing districts. And your general account, that had, you had $2 million in it, but you also had $2 million in liability or bills that were due at June 30/25. So basically you have invoices that had to be paid that pretty much used up that cash. Now, the restricted cash was at 13.6 million. That consisted of you had a detention center grant, 2.5 million. Grant that you had spent yet. You had the bond fund that you hadn't spent yet. The capital project funds, the part that you had, was at 6.8 million. And then you had debt service funds of 827,000, which is tax collection that have to be spent to pay debt. And then you had few other grants and such as that you received fund for that you had spent at 6/30/25. So when it's in that restricted cash, that basically is just what it sounds like. Those have specific guidelines of what they can be spent on. They can't be spent paid every day people. They have guidelines of what they can be spent on. Like your local option sales tax funds was almost 1.5 million. Those have to be used to roll back tax. Your total capital assets, which are all of your buildings, land, furniture, pictures, and equipment, was at 55.8 million. Getting you total assets of 78.6 million. Going down to the next section, your liabilities. As I mentioned earlier, I got cash on hand. Some of that is held and is due to other government agencies. And you'll see that line where it says due to other government agencies was at 2.4 million. That's what, when you have taxes that you collected, and you have to pay to the municipalities, you have to pay to schools, collections that you've made for fines that have to be paid to the state. So that total 2.4 million.
Mr. Chair, let me ask you a question. I guess it bothers me. Let's say at the end of the year, we budgeted and we've got bills that did not get processed and they're getting processed in the following year. Do you go back or do we go back as an accounting procedure and put that back in the year that it was really spent instead of paid?
If there's. So, but your system automatically, if they put it in as a date due, say before 6/30/25, then it goes back in the prior year, no matter when they're actually paid. It goes back in the fiscal year that it was due,
Yeah. Who's responsible for doing that?
the accounts payable.
And you know why I'm asking, because we could really, the budget could completely look different from one year to the next if we weren't paying all the accounts receivable or payable for the next
Yeah.
year.
That.
Yeah.
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 You want the budget to look better or worse, you can.
Yeah.
Not put something in payables that should be, or a receivable, book something that shouldn't be received. So I mean, that's one of our things that we have to really test to make sure. And of course, there's some things that didn't get booked that, we find that, we say, okay, we need to post this as an unadjusted entry. And it's not even intentional, it's just, overtime.
Well, sometimes they may not send the bill in. The vendor might put it off for whatever reason. Yeah.
But you're in the mindset that, okay, I need to watch this, I need to put this back in the right. But whereas, when I'm doing it, that's what I'm looking for. So, yeah, I mean, there's adjustments that we make to post things that we, so that it's going back so that it's not affecting your, future budget.
And then when you don't have a lot of money, it would be easy to maybe pay it out of next year's budget or try to pay it out of the next year's budget.
Yes,
Yeah.
still gonna be looked at.
Yeah.
Booked on your financial statements, whether it's paid at 2/30 or not. Any other questions?
Follow what is your questions? Is that what you have listed on the corrected misstatements?
Yes, those are if it's correct, if that's the journal entries that we posted or we proposed to management to post. Uncorrected are the little things that we found that it just didn't say the negative vote.
In some cases, you find it immaterial. So it would be a large amount. Was it a large amount of money?
Well,
You said-
if it was, if we didn't post it, then it had to be a small one. Or we would have posted it. We have to do a calculation based on these financial statements for each, what we call, unit. Which would be like the general fund, maybe the special revenue fund, the capital projects fund. We do a calculation for each unit and calculate what we call material. And we have to evaluate, if we find a problem, we evaluate based on that. And we can't not propose an adjustment if it's above that number. If we didn't, then we put expressly on the financial statement. Down from that, 2.4 million, and we talked about, we have your long-term debt. These are your bonds, notes payables, the OPEB and pension. The long-term debt totals. And you have detail for all of this, but just to give you some totals for that. The bonds for 6/30/25, bonds, leases and notes total $6,775,000. This is down from 10.9 million in 6,775,000. This is down from 10,911,000 in the prior year, which paid off a large bond. Your leases were at 1,749,000. compared to 1,390,000. That went up 359,000. The majority of that is your enterprise. The leases on the car. There's some other small ones in there, but all of that is the, smaller ones. And then you have compensated absences in there, which is your sick time and annual leave time. There was a change in that this year for, Government County Standard 4101, which required you, in the past, you only had to book annual leave. Well, they decided that you also needed to report, sick leave. So this year we had to go back and determine what was, we felt like you were, or what management felt like they would, you might have to pay for sick leave. And when I say pay it, that doesn't mean you pay it when they leave. That means what you might have to pay for that person taking sick leave. So that number went up $206,000. Total for the year was $9,742,000. That was a decrease of $3,570,000 for your long-term debt. Now, you also have the net pension obligation. We talked about that. That's the retirement system. Now, that includes the liability on what we call deferred inflows and outflows. And that total $12,673,000 with a liability of $14,281,000. That decreased $539,000. Your OPEB, which is other post-employment benefit. That's the health insurance that you pay for retirees. That total with the liability and the earning inflows and outflows, $18,961,000. That decreased $77,162.
Excuse me, Chairman. Did you, in doing an analysis of the health care payouts for retirees, did you notice any discrepancies or inconsistencies in terms of reimbursements? Yeah.
This is not.
Or the amount that has to be contributed
From their
for retirees.
No, I didn't. I mean, but this isn't really that. This is done by the actuary. This is where they, based on a calculation that's done, what they determine you'll have to pay for the life of the retirees and the life of all of your employees when they retire. I think what you're speaking about is what the retirees are paying for their dependent, what they're paying the county. No, I didn't notice anything. I noticed that there's a receivable that was booked, and I didn't know I had to adjust that receivable because it wasn't adjusted correctly, because the posting wasn't done correctly on the books. The way the insurance deal was being posted wasn't correctly done. But I didn't notate any significant there. What was being rewritten. Yeah. Now there may be there's always been some delay in what's being paid. As far as not getting paid time. That's all it's been reached.
Mr. Chairman. So to follow up on that question, a few years back, somehow we've gotten tied into paying the benefits for family members. And that one never was a policy of ours, and we straightened it up, I thought. And then this year we've come back. Is that your responsibility to follow up on as an audit to make sure that certain areas are paid out accordingly to our policy, or do you have any idea what our policies are in some cases? Yep.
The state mandate what you pay for, if it's you set policy to pay what is above the state.
Yeah.
Within the state mandates what you pay. Okay, but at a minimum, you pay the employee coverage, you don't have to pay them, it's like 9768 that the employee would have to pay. Then above that, county would have to pay. I think you pay that part, anything above that, the employee would have to pay.
Yeah, well, in this case, there was, at one time, somehow it got all messed up.
Yeah.
We were paying for the employees' spouses. And that never was or never has been a policy that I remember. So we had to, of course, go in and send them a letter, let them understand that they'll have to get it private. But so when you're doing all your figures and cost, if there's a big rise, then that might be a red flag that you would go in.
I take the bill from the state and I reconcile the bill, adjust it for that part, that additional part that the county pays above what you're required to pay. And reconcile it to what you got recorded. And then there was some there, but not enough that should have been, you were paying for the baby coverage.
But let me just follow up on one other thing, and I'm just trying to find out what your duties are. Because I'd love to think that we could follow up on somebody's accounting and all those principles that we need to know. The cars, a good example. We didn't realize that we had increased our expenditure on lease vehicles until it exploded into what, $300,000 or $400,000 a year that we didn't even have any idea that we were paying for. Would that be something that you would monitor, or would it be something that we would have in-house that those employees would know that council decides on that? Anything that's not an expenditure in the budget.
It's on the board. There's a department that releases it every month. But I mean, yeah, whoever.
Should be. We should have known.
Whoever's monitoring the budget would see that,
Yep.
that it's, your budget's this and this is what's being spent. So, the administration or whoever's monitoring the budget will see that.
So-
Being budgeted was not comparable. to
Yeah.
what was being spent.
And those people probably would know that every expenditure is either in the budget or it's not. Anything additional, let's say like salaries, somebody gets a big raise during the middle of the year. And that was not discussed, or that would not be your job, I know, but
No, that's time.
too late. It's already done. Yeah, that's right.
That's why in the management letter, I'm asking for, or suggesting that you revise there's a form that you have that HR puts in or fills out to get payroll. Sometimes it had a signature by, administration, sometimes it did. But I'm suggesting that it always have that administrative signature, and that it also consider having that they're looking at the budget. Because there are situations if you find out that there's a change in the law. A new person, got some certification that they have to, so you have to
Yep.
pay more. But still, they need to look at the budget. To know that you've got budget to pay for this. If you don't, then you need to be looking at where am I gonna get the from? I think if it's not there, then possibly you need to look at another department or another line item in that department. Okay, I've got some money here in professional services or professional services or supply that I can move up salary and benefits that come with that. So that's what I'm saying, that you should consider adding something to that form to say, the budget has been considered, that I have budget to cover this, or transfer needs to be done.
Who would send, the administrator would be the one that notifies us that we've got a change in budget. Okay. And would it be, in your professional opinion, would it be that we might want to train certain people in accounting or whatever department to become more aware of the budget, or is it always the administrator?
No, every department needs to be aware of the budget.
Good, good.
I mean, they have access to the system, but every department needs to be aware of what's going on with their budget. To know if, well, one thing, to know what they're spending, and then for another thing, to see if something get charged to their department that they don't think should be there. I mean, because errors happen. You know, something gets charged to their department that shouldn't be there. And they see that with an issue that I've had, something that's charged to the department that really should be a grant, that would be a totally different fund, and needs to be filed for reimbursement. And then those reimbursements aren't filed, and they aren't filed timely, you're not getting money back. And you're not getting it back time. Which, you know, that's your cash flow. I mean, it doesn't seem like a big deal to file that claim for reimbursement 6 months later. But if you need a cash flow, it is a big. Especially if it's large that one.
In your letter to this point, I think one of the questions he's getting at is if there's going to be a change in how money is transferred, should the council approve of it? So if money is over here and say they're gonna take money out of professional services or supplies, use it to cover a change in somebody's pay.
What your policy is right now, if the administrator will move within the department, or if it all has to go before him. But it's all gonna be determined by exactly what your policy said. Yes,
Do you have a copy of that?
I do, but I can't remember right now.
Because I think that policy is very old.
Yeah, it is pretty old. Very old.
I certainly think we would want a copy to understand a little more.
And to be honest, I mean, y'all haven't amended or changed the budget. I can't remember what it's saying. But yeah, if some places, you know, have it so that administration or me can move within a department. But if it crosses departments, that has to go to him.
So if they make a change within a department that affects someone's salary, that does in effect impact the budget in the next year because we'd have to budget for this new salary amount that's been applied.
And fringes.
And fringes. And that to me seems like it should come to a council level to approve. Unless there is something that's employment law, we say they're required because of certification to.
But still, it's all guided by policy, and if there's nothing wrong with saying that any changes has to come before the council. Before it's done, or even if it's a requirement that has to be done, they're notified after it's done, why it's being done.
And let me say one thing. I have all the confidence in David, our new administrator, because his background is more in the finance area, which is a blessing. Because like I said, I'd like to think that we could do it. But listen, I do recreation. Okay. I don't know what Johnny does. Okay, but we need all the help we can get. And I know David's gonna put some things in place because of some things that have happened that we could have really made some changes and done some things differently. So, and that's why I think Joel and I both are going, trying to make sure that whoever's here, make it easier for them to follow up on the money side of this. Yeah.
So some of the controls that were in place have gone by the wayside in the last year or so.
Can you send us?
Well, I'm just, I can't say for sure, I mean,
Not
like,
today, but
I mean, there used to be more of the sign offs on those. Payroll. I mean, just like the purchase order, days and. They've always been an issue, but they've gotten worse, and the business is, all of that's been managed later. It's gotten worse.
it is in the management letter.
Yeah.
What I was hoping for was some examples. But not today.
Okay. Okay, let's turn to page 19. Any questions? Do you have another question? No. Okay. This is of the same information, but this is the balance sheet. Now, this is a more what we call a short term use. It's on my side of pool bank of the him. And it's split by funds. You see the general fund, capital projects, which is building fund. It's specific grant, and then the other government funds, which is your building, your debt service and all your grant. I just really wanted to concentrate here on the fund balance. Which is your bottom section there, first column, general fund. Overall, you see the fund balance in the general fund was at 1.2 million. But if you look just above that number, unassigned fund balance went into the negative this year. Negative 151, 81.52. The prior year, this was 2 million. It's 2,688,000. So you had a total of $2 million change in your unassigned fund for the year. And so overall, you do have the 1.2, but all that other fund balance is assigned or restricted for certain things. You have money that's restricted, can only be used for economic development. Money that can only be used for our accommodations tax, that's guided by law, that can only be used for certain things, like not recreation, but things to improve the county to bring tourism. And for solid waste tire, basically, but for fund balance that is not signed for anything that is strictly unencumbered. You had a deficit of $155,000, which is the first time that you've gone into the negative. So that's very concerning.
You say that was the first time that went into negative?
And you've been doing this audit, how long? Straight out of school.
35 years.
Dog, huh?
So if it's unassigned. What does that mean?
Unassigned is basically that's operating, that can be used for anything, stand on anything.
You figure it wasn't budgeted. Council.
So, that just means it's to use for your general operating expenses. Not something that's restricted that has to be spent. But it's other stuff, basically just that thing that it's not guided by any other type of law or restriction or anything that says it has to be spent on economic development. It has to be spent on emergency services. It's just it's only governed by council.
So in a very cursory way, can you explain why it's in the negative or have a sense of why it's in the negative?
Let's go to the, page. 754. Before I start getting into the weeds, just turn to page 83. And then we'll come back and do it over. In the middle column there, about the fourth number up. It says excess deficiency of revenues over expenditures and other financing sources and uses in the middle column there. 2.6 million. Your expenditures were over your revenues, 2.6 million. That's why you go down to me. Then you had, like I say, you're in the prior year, you had a unassigned of 2,678,000. So when you overspend that money, that's what puts you in the negative. Okay, now if we go back to page 74.
Mr. Chairman, one thing to follow up on it. It seems to me like if we were doing that, someone would have notified us that we were overspending. I don't remember ever being notified or any idea of what was happening. I might have been asleep. Okay. That amazes me.
Mhm.
On page 74, we're just, this is, I said in the past, and this is your budget, the actual, and then the anything in bracket that either means the revenue didn't come in like you expected, or you overspent, so brackets or where you have an interest. Now, your revenue, as far as budget, comes from. If you look at the bottom of the page there, the revenue was $909,000 better than what you budgeted. So if you did have some line items there that were conservative, then you would probably have some decrease than what you have now.
Well, the council did a good job, I think, being conservative with the budget. Was consistent with the prior years, notwithstanding the fact that you shared with us that because some changes, it was like $1.2 million more in revenue, 2 straight years, I think 2003, 2022 to 2023, 2023, 2024. And that we were assuming that we would have kind of significant money sitting around, but we still kept our budget pretty reasonable. It's not a budget that revenue. So yeah, we thank you for that information, sharing it with us last year. But just my point is,
There's still, there's some items in there in revenue that were negative, but there's more that were positive, so the revenues were good as far as the budget.
but well, here's my question. What budget were you looking at? Because your letter says you were having a hard time receiving a copy of the budget ordinance, or that there was various copies of it.
That was in your system, that was in that. That said that had the 2%, it was 2% rate. Because the one that Sabrina had was at a date on it of May. And budget couldn't have been his name, it could have been, but I was pretty sure what. Based on the.
I don't want to put this on her. Oh, yeah, I just want to make sure for the record, that's, yeah. Can't give it, yeah, I want to make sure that's on the record, because, oh, yeah. So trying to figure out if you have the right budget is important.
Well, after I talked to Sabrina and I talked to Ms. Rose, the treasurer, and she felt confident that because she felt like she would have uploaded into the system until she was told this is it, this is budget.
Yes, but if she was given something that was not what council voted on, there's an issue. Which goes back to the point that we're supposed to file a copy of our ordinance with the clerk of court.
Yeah,
So you can go to
the correct one should be on file with your clerk of council.
and the clerk of
Yeah.
court.
Because if a freedom of information request does have the statements, and she gives that budget, then, you know, it's totally different from what we're reporting. And nobody knows for sure. There's nothing in the minutes that says this is the amount of revenue that we approved. All that is it was approved in meetings, do whatever. There's nothing that says this is the amount.
But I think Mr. Tenney had mentioned that he plans to make that announcement this year of what the revenues, budget numbers are supposed to be the big numbers. But we still need to make sure that we have a consistent copy at the clerk of court and filed here.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see something stamped, digital copy or something. The chairman or somebody that's on file. That would say that this is even. So that when I'm downloading reports from your financial software. Yeah, that's usually what I do before I start working with the budget in your software package. Start comparing things to the budget. I usually go, you know, like go to a different source. I would go to administration to get budget and compare that to what's in the software package. And when I did, they weren't the same. Now, it wasn't, everything was wrong. I mean, there were differences. It's totally different. But, and then, you know, when we started looking at the differences, yes, we were looking. They were like, well, this wasn't approved. That was in that May budget. But the main thing that made me feel like that the budget that was on file wasn't correct, so that as far as the one that was in the software package. That's what you use all the. But that's why I wanted that management or put that in the management letter. If got any of that or something we doing so that. Number one, we know the right thing for the financial statements, and number two, that if somebody requests a copy of the budget, you know, you're getting the right thing.
So in the software package, does it show when the information was uploaded onto the program?
Or only friends, or anything friends, the way the system does it, it leaves like every time there was a budget done, like you did a 2% raise, you did a 3% raise, or every time there was a change done in it, it leaves it in there. So I mean, you look at it, there might be 5 different budgets in there. You have to pick the one that you're gonna use to run your report. And that was the first question, which budget I used to run our report.
So there wasn't a budget uploaded on July 1. The timestamp would be July 1, and this is the final budget.
I don't really be in a. That figure goes from 11 to central. And budget. Approved. I've been in public budget out of my emergency. Into the time to correct. And we discussed before. I know that what is consistent. Because there's two things. You had different lines, but you had budget lines on. And then you had the minimum major of the, where I run the reports, I work with budget line. I just run the reporting line. I can't make changes to this. I can't go in and post a dirt and so you're doing anything obvious on the forward. But I just have to select which budget to run the report from. Which is a
So-
equity to this,
If there's 3 different preset budgets, 2%, 3%, 5%. And we have a budget meeting. And we decide that we want to change something that doesn't have anything to do with salary.
that's just the title that budget's given.
Okay, let's say 2%. So we make a determination in a budget meeting that we want to change something. How can we be certain that someone went back into the system to that 2% section and changed something within that? As opposed to what we heard is that, well, we just, once the council makes a decision, we just select that 2% option. How do we know that the changes that we've approved after that 2% option or that 3% option or that 5% option was created in the system? Preset. And we made determinations in a budget meeting, we want to change some things. How do we make sure that those things are actually input into the system? Because I'll give you a good example. 2 years ago, we had a budget meeting before our council meeting, the day before our council meeting. On the morning of the council meeting, we received the final budget that we were going to vote on at the start of the council meeting. And in it was a $100,000 increase for the library that we had not approved of the night before.
The only way you can be sure that everything is exactly the same. Hey, if you don't trust what's being done for you, then that's all you can do is compare by department or compare by line item. If you don't trust that what you're being given from the last time and the changes that you are approved and been done, then all you can do is compare it. So this is my last budget, this is what you're giving me now, is compare that the changes are there. May I say that council has been given monthly a financial statement, which you compare a budget to the actual. I have made certain that they have received it monthly. If there were any issues with the budget, that should have been seen when they got the reports.
Let the record reflect that was a county treasurer. No one's making any accusations towards the county treasurer. Everything I'm speaking about are facts. We received the budget on the morning that we're supposed to vote on the third budget, and it had a $100,000 line item change from what we had agreed to the day before it.
Yep.
And so how can we, in that kind of a situation, we were on a deadline, we had to pass a budget. How are we supposed to ensure that what we had agreed upon as a group was actually what's in the system, that's actually being input into the system? So I guess coming back to my point, that's where you come in of saying, if there's a budget pass, you need a certified copy of it so you can make sure that what we approved is what's been put into the system so you can do your audit accurately.
That's why it's in the name of things. I mean, I felt comfortable after the numerous discussions, and we looked what was advertised in the paper. We looked at, several different things, and cause she was talking about it, that this is what's been in the council order of the year. I did enough discussion and other procedures that I felt comfortable with what was being presented here. And there was no other way other than to say, I can't present this statement, I can't express an opinion on this statement. That's my only other option. Would been just to say that. And I was trying to get a comfort level that I felt like I could do, was put this statement in there and express the opinion on that. And I felt comfortable enough with the discussions I had and the other things that I did. So looking at what was advertised and what I felt like this was correct, but now there's no way I can know every line item in here. This is what you're approving. There's no way I can know that, because I don't know that's what you had in that last meeting. There's no way I would get on this budget to know that.
No, this reflects some previous management issues that we articulated to that previous administration when we did see these monthly budget issues, and we highlighted it. Like, how is this variance continuing?
It was me, I mean, when I would get budget, or each time, I mean, if, like I said, a situation where you're getting a change in 5 minutes before you got to approve it, and it's got to be approved that day, you can't be able to do that, but if you've got time, then I would be checking the department totals against what I had and looking for the changes that I thought would be in there, or should be in there. And on my first report that I did, at my first council meeting in July, with any budget, I would be checking that and saying, okay, this is what we approved. This looks like what's in the report. So I feel like this is correct.
Mr. Chairman, one little thing I just thought about is, and I know we get the monthlies, but I think we've all realized that sometimes the monthly might not be accurate because you have certain expenditures that have not been adjusted to it. And the only reason I'm saying that, there's no way this council would have gone along with spending $300,000 or $400,000 on fleet. Don't care when it was done, how it was done. No way, if we saw an expenditure like that, that was nowhere supposed to be approved. No way.
And
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it got so bad, unless,
it's been growing here.
yeah, no question.
I know. Anybody else thinking that? I had another one that tried to get with them, mostly they were looking at on-duty cards. They didn't know.
Mr. Chairman. On page 74 here, at the bottom, we have a FEMA. We budgeted 700,000. Was that a reimbursement? Because we received no money.
And nobody really knows. Do you have that money from them? It was about, equipment.
Right.
I believe it was 2 years ago now.
Mhm.
Maybe going on 3 years. And that with the new administration at the White House came in, you have lots of problems with FEMA and a lot of things to put on hold, but they weren't reimbursing anything. The only thing I can figure out is that it was put in the budget for that reimbursement.
So this is an existing reimbursement we're waiting on. Okay, because that's our biggest variance.
Right.
That's it, that's here.
I'll figure out that and the last time I talked to Mr. Crotts, he had spoken to, Mr. Turner, and they still felt like they were gonna be getting their money, but it's still in limbo.
Okay,
Let me follow up, because I just talked to Mr. Turner a short period ago. It seemed like David had mentioned that we were getting a lot of the FEMA, finally getting that FEMA money in, and it was like 700,000 or 800,000.
That is correct.
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
So that's on the way.
Well, when it shows up on here, the biggest
Yeah.
variance we have, when you address the big tree first. Okay,
I'd done this and I wanted to go back and double check that, and to make sure I was aware of that.
and the local government fund?
I'm glad about that.
What I think happened there is, the local government, fund, part of that money goes to the, behavioral care. Or, yeah, well, but there's a portion of that, of every payment you get from local government fund that has to be submitted to community behavioral care. So what I'm thinking is that the budget was done on the full amount that you receive, not the net amount that you get from, that you get to keep. So
But that's settlement money, correct? Which what Trinity is getting?
this is different.
No, this is local government fund.
Yeah.
This is something different.
Now, this is something that's been around for. This is something that is automatically is alcohol with legalization. But that turned me off. I was thinking drugs, but yeah, okay. So they're on the bottom of the statement that they get every month from that, from the state. It tells you, you know, you may be getting $300,000, but it'll say 50,000 of this must go to the Trinity behavior. But that's what it looks like happening.
Okay.
Now, there could be some other in there that was not, budgeted correctly, but it looks like that's at least part of it.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else on the revenues. Flip over to the expenditures.
What page?
Next page,
75.
75.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not gonna hit all of these, because you know, you've got executive sessions, other things, but I just want to say that, overall, it looked like professional services was a item that appeared to be a problem with the, budgeting. They just watch out for, you know, see the brackets, those are ones that were, had issues. On page 76. In administration. Under professional services, you had a variance of 44,500. That was the largest item of compensation study that was approved, which was about 43,700. And then there was another, 19,000 that was paid to the COG for the comprehensive plan. And then under operating expenditures, which is over 37,000. There was a payment made to Geotab, which I believe is the, GPS system. That were, the monthly payments totaled about $29,000, which I don't believe was budgeted. And there was also a payment, a rental payment of $7,500 for an emergency, shelter rental. And then you paid off a lease of $5,600. When you changed your lease or lease vessel. On page 77. Under treasurer, under what was given professional services. Your monthly payments for the software and for the web hosting total $37,000 for the software and $7,500 for the hosting. So either the hosting or a part of the software would it appears to be budgeted. Tax collector below that, under professional services, you have 47,000 budgeted, $65,000 expended. You paid $38,000 for a department of hosting, which had to do with delinquent tax notices, which is pretty standard that you pay every year. But then you also paid another $22,000 for the tax digging searches. So either the searches were more than what you planned, or they just didn't budget that much. Plant operation, the land professional services, $133,000. That still had to do with some of those landscaping contracts. In capital outlay, there was a payment on the roof that was made. Page 78. Information technology. That department was $167,000 over. It appeared that the costs that we were committed to for creating a consultants group just were not fully budgeted. Do want to point out under unallocated expenditure.
Yeah.
Vehicle leasing. Now it shows here a budget of $550 and spent $368, which may be favorable. But because of the way I have to account for that, I have to show it as debt service, a part of it. So you need to look over on page. Page 82. Down at the bottom of the page, debt service. See $668,719. They really have to add that to the vehicle lease line. To get the total of what was paid for leases. Now there's a little bit in there for copier leases and postage machines, but the majority of that is the vehicle lease. I want to point that out, so I want you to say, I harped on that, and you look at that and say, well, we're not over budget.
The copier leases, those were, that's a different lease than previous, the copier leases. Was that a new, the copier leases, is that based on a new contract? Was that the same from the previous year?
There was one of them, I thought it was going on postage and sort of changed. Postage changed quite a bit. It does, but I don't know the computer changed, I think now. Let me see, this is
Mr. Chairman. Back on 78, retiree health insurance. Is that was there the wrong number plugged in at the first of the year? Somehow we might have made a mistake on budgeting.
Number that paid in prior year, number that's what was budgeted, just seemed too low. Because it did go up what you paid, but what you paid the prior year was going about not.
And and that's one of the mistakes that we could easily make but then when you're talking about $230,000 in a fixed account that shouldn't have many variables from one year to the next, that's like fringe benefits. If this is the amount, the health insurance should be mighty close.
They increased me here, but, they increase is going to take January. But you can pretty much judge what their increases are gonna be.
Yeah.
Page 79. For the general department. Emergency management. There was nothing budgeted for the salary there. The only thing I can gather is that they thought that the salary was fully covered by the grant. And that's not the case. Usually get, some money back, maybe half of it's in the grant, but not all of it. And big item there, you pay an annual fee to motor road, so about $200 to $1,000. And that was the budget.
Miss Brenda, got a question on the fringe benefits, because almost every department, regardless of what department it was, went over on fringe benefits. Is our just calculation wrong as far as the insurance and that kind of thing? It's got to be something off, because almost every department, when it comes down to fringe benefits, it was off.
I think they underestimated what was on law. Because the retirement is a flat percentage. That should just be, as long as you know your salary, that's easy to do, and so is the vitamin. So it's gotta be the health insurance. But don't really. Everything this year is budgeted to be, make sure it had anything done going.
I mean, we budgeted, we just didn't budget enough.
Because that,
That's some amount of budget put in a line item. It doesn't supposed to be this without the use of the.
but you think it might be something to do with the health insurance, where it could be almost $300,000
in one department,
in one department?
Which part?
Sheriff.
sheriff's department. 282,000.
You're under salary, so if you're under salary, you're gonna be under benefits.
So if what we really are under or over is salaries. Yeah, we would be over in salaries, which would be applicable to everything else as far as fringe.
Too low.
Yeah.
Yeah, already been budgeted that everything already did.
And that's with usually 7, 8, 9, 10 people without even having a complete force. We usually stay what? At least 6, 7, 8 employees out.
Yeah.
I think we just budgeting that insurance wrong, because if you look at the animal shelter, the salary is fine, but the fringe benefits is over almost $7,500. Salary was good. It's gotta be the insurance.
And like on a department like that, it could be. If you have an employee leaving and they're only employee and they got the next one comes in and they're full family. Even though you're not paying everything, but what the state requires you to pay for full family is still higher.
Oh, yeah.
than what you pay for.
Yeah.
Employee, so if you budgeted for an employee only, somebody comes, you hire somebody full family, it's gonna cost you more.
Gotcha.
But no, that's not all the law. Page 80, just to point out on capital outlay on the animal shelter. That's showing as, unbudgeted, but that was paid by bond proceeds. Now for the new proceeds, we're moving that out of the general fund, so it won't skew your, budget. But since that was proceeds that were left in there from the prior year, that's still showing in there, making the budget move off. Page 81, F4. The fuel is under budget here, but your revenue is also under budget, so those two kind of offset. Landfill, the only budget is spent 116, you spent 236.
So,
That was the main one that I wanted to get over. Any other questions on anything in that? On the enterprise, when we combine the two together, the two different pages. That top, you were $485,000 per budget. I just point out, we don't necessarily have to point, go there, we'll talk about it on the letter. On the mentioned letter, you do have two letters in here, you have two significant deficiencies that are the same you had in the prior year, so yes, I do. You're a big, enterprise, but you still have duties that are concentrated in certain people. And you have offices that have bank account, that they're handling money, they're handling bank account, that you can't always segregate everything. But you're using controls by having people oversee things, looking behind, and help alleviate some of that. So that's what makes oversight by having administration review and report, by having council review report, by asking questions on the monthly report. If you see something that looks strange, ask the question, make somebody get involved. Answer the questions for you. Open your management letter that you have. We probably talked about most of this. At the bottom, just first couple of signatures. I saw the second page, it's the letter. April 9th, to the administrator and the council. Everybody got that?
This is different.
There's two of them.
That's it.
Sure.
That's it.
This is the one.
This side and second, that was good.
Need this one.
Second page, the bottom of the page, discussion certificate. I've met with, the products, and we've gone over all of them, and I've presented that, which I didn't think I had, if you do this, I don't think he was on page. Ready to do this, but when the first time read it, having to meet with his partner, and his stress, it's with them. There was an issue with his, not hitting you, which I know you're already aware of. We had the same issue last year, and it continued in, you're aware of that from the additional procedures that, you requested. But there was also, you have departments that are, doing their own deal, which if that's what they want to do, or if that's what council's going to do, is that's fine. I still think they should be centralized and on file with your purchasing department.
Are you aware of what our policy says regarding it? How bids are supposed to be handled?
I don't think it prohibits it. I mean, if council wants to change that, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you shouldn't have to, they should be centralized. If you're going to have to, somebody request or review those bids, they should be in a centralized location. Especially in a situation so that if there's turnover in that department that did the bid, then that person may not know what happened to those bids. And then you're really something to find those bids.
So you're suggesting here that it be done that way so it can be maintained as your words, an official county record?
Yes. And also to have it, the purchasing department is going to be more familiar with all of the rules and regulations of the bid process, of the county regulation. Whereas the department head may not be. So I think it would be wise if that department head is going to be getting the bids, therefore then having that purchasing department involved, having them review it, during the process before it's completed. Once again, we had instances where the administrator wasn't put in. If you're aware that, that was an issue. I don't think that's gonna be an issue from now on. Your policy requires that the, you have not only bids, but on certain levels, we go to the quotes, the bids, but the documentation of quotes aren't always there. But they need to be aware that what those limits are for getting the quotes and what they have to have on file when they're getting those. And how that should be maintained, and that should be provided with the invoice or with the purchase order, so that when it's submitted for approval, so whoever approving that purchase order knows that you're getting the best price, and you're not just getting what's easy. And that purchase order is done before you make the purchase, not after you've already got it, and then you're going back to another paperwork. Just doing that, the only thing you're doing then is just making it easy to enter it into the system. It's not, that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of doing the purchase order is to verify that you have bid, budget available and that it's bid free. And the purchase orders are coded with, staff needs to be careful and they're coding those purchase orders. If it's a grant, it needs to be coded to those grants, not coded to their department. So that it has to be moved later by journey. Because it makes your budget look out. And it also makes it easy to forget something that might need to be claimed forever. I mean, that was some of those journal entries that you see on that other letter are things where we're having a new, we're taking what's claimed for reimbursement and matching that up to where the expenditure, you know, somewhere in the general fund, somewhere in the grant fund. Somewhere where the grant fund should have been in the general fund. So we're matching them up, trying to get a, so what should be in the grant fund in the grant. The next item, payroll figures, I want to get, this one, the Christmas bonuses. Somehow the way with this system, the way they were coded, they were not taxed. And that's not correct. So it's just out in payroll and what it does that be actually gonna get those. It's all for people to find out how the correct way to code those. We get the person. Typically what's done is you pass it for best security net. You gross it up. They no more tax it off.
So do we have to go back and pay that? Yes. And its current budget, so current budget.
That's the great thing to do with the. Beautiful. We talked about budget, we talked about payroll. We have some people not get, that didn't have their bank reconciliation of the old bank or the bank statement. Hopefully they can do better with that on this year. Any questions on any of that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, it's time administrative update.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I don't have a lot to say after that, other than that, we have been in, consultation with the auditor, as she alluded to, the county administrator, Mr. Cox, and very much aware of a lot of things going on and a lot of internal controls that need to be put in place that has already started happening, and I'd like to say to the department heads and the county employees, they are all very much aware of these internal controls that we're now putting in place to ensure that this does not happen going forward. You know, it's a process. It's not an overnight fix. We know how we got here, and we know what it's going to take to correct this. We tightened the belt. You know, we're going into the home stretch of the end of the fiscal year, and normally, you know, we have the mentality that we have this budget, we got to spend it. We kind of put not necessarily a freeze on spending, but I guess you could call it that as well. Only what we absolutely have to have, that is what we are purchasing. Capital outlay projects that we've had budgeted, those things that we can get by with, we're doing that. Try to absorb some of this over expenditures that we have experienced and going forward. It's gonna have to be a lot of adjustments with the county employees and we're having that conversation daily. The good thing about it, county administrator, Mr. Watts, he has a great financial background. Prots, sorry, financial background, he's an accountant. He's done a deep dive into all of our accounting practices and what have you. And uncover some things that needs to be changed and put in place, and he's addressing those things. So we feel good about that. We have a lot of work to be done. We know that. We have to be good stewards of our resources, of our taxpayers, resources. That's why we're here, and we're putting some policy in place that we probably come to the council to approve, change to make sure going forward we don't experience what we're experiencing. So that's kind of where we are. Just wanted to share that.
Thanks, sir.
So.
Requests and comments by members of council?
I just have two quick ones. I almost shed a tear on Friday when went by shoe fair. They're closing, or they're closed now. That was a Marion County institution that a lot of young people went to over the years, and purchased my final pair of shoes out there, but they were an asset to the community for many, many years. So it's sad to see them close. But that's how the economic cycle is sometimes. Mr. Deputy Administrator, the company that won the bid to service the lawns in the southern end of the county, they need to tighten up. They need to use weed eaters, edge areas, and not just go over sections with a lawnmower unevenly, go over trash and leave it, and then they're gone. It is unacceptable.
But look at that, our building and maintenance director sitting in the back, West Pittman, so keep hearing this conversation. So we'll get together and we'll have a conversation with the contract and see if we get that tightened up.
Thank you.
Rob.
About 3 weeks ago, there was a guy on Big PD River, and I know this is Oxford District. Anyway, he was down in the county by all the logs floating in the river on the piling. Well, I called a buddy of mine, Mr. William, you concerned, and he told me the Florence County was going to get a dredge and a excavator and get all the logs out, and Marion County was going to do the same thing. Well, my buddy called me and said, Robin, we're going to start Monday, and I believe they started. We can't help with the logs float, the county can't. Man, I just wanted to let everybody know that, and I talked to Oxford, that's in his district. But we're trying to make a difference down there in Big PD where people put the boat in and go fishing.
Absolutely, you're correct. They have started removing those logs. You can't do any dredging because Corps of Engineers will not allow dredging, but we can remove those logs, cut them freely so they can float on down the river. What caused that is when they last redid the bridge over there, the way they designed the columns and the way they turned them and the angle that they turn those columns, it catches those logs coming downstream, and it creates a big sandbar. A lot of times the boaters can't even access the river because of the sandbar. They can't get the boat in And of course, they're over there now, as you mentioned, taking out those, logs and debris and what have you, so that, they can access the river. And also on that note, we also had a conversation with DNR last week. Again, they're, getting together, the engineers, and they're gonna come down and meet with us. And what we're gonna do on the north side of the PD River, we're looking at, a location there to create a new boat landing. So they can have, better access to the river. So the engineers will be coming down to look at that side to see whether it's suitable. Because you know that Big PD River, the bank is pretty steep, so only, certain locations can accommodate a boat ramp. So we're also addressing that as well.
Well, and I appreciate that, but you know how people are on Facebook.
So I understand.
Facebook is the worst thing that ever happened to this county.
I got a question.
Me too. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
two things. And I'd like to follow up on what, Joel said. Keith Herring and Marcia have been here. They're neighbors of mine and friends. They've been a big asset, and I hope and pray whoever comes into that facility will do as much as they have done in the past. Second thing, we're very fortunate this week. Marion Recreation will be hosting the 10 and under boys tournament starting Thursday. Mullins Recreation Department will be hosting the 10 and under girls. We're gonna have 13 teams coming in. So if you get a chance, get out and enjoy something that these kids are doing. Kent's nephew is playing with our 10 and under, so you'll have to make sure you get over there to see that. Thank y'all.
I
Also want to. What I'm hearing is this shoe fair has meant a lot to me in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it would be appropriate to do a resolution of
Be nice.
appreciation?
Yes.
And his wife,
I think that'd be great.
and make that a form of motion.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second in discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Ayes have it.
Just want to thank the building department, for getting that, issue at the park taken care of, but the old, the restroom they had, burned down. They took care of that very swiftly, and everyone's excited about that.
Executive session, economic develop, personnel matter, and a contractual matter. Got a motion, got a second in discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it. Executive session, no, action was taken. Need a motion to come out of executive session, back in regular session.
So move.
Got a motion, got a second in discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it. Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I need to ask for your approval on two different contracts. One is for the acquisition of the landfill expansion property to 8.75 acres from Grand Strand Water and Sewer, $35,000, and to authorize the county council chairman to sign that contract, please.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it.
I also need to ask for your approval for a communications contract with Motorola for all the county radios to approve that contract, the terms of that contract, and to authorize the county administrator to execute that contract, please.
So move. Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes have it.
And I also just need to state for the record that we need to have a special call meeting of council tomorrow evening at 7 PM. So we need to notice that meeting, please. And that's all I have, folks.
All right. You got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion, got a second, say aye.
Aye.